Well, it's another safe arrival into another new city. I'm very excited to be here. This is my first trip into Oklahoma, so of course Oklahoma City is new to me as well. And upon parking and getting set up and settling in, I step on just the slightest uneven ground. I go tumbling down, rolling my ankle. It's incredibly painful even when I'm not moving it. Boy, am I happy, extra happy to be traveling with Bobby Jean right now, as are the Houndies, because I don't think I can even do dog walks at this point. Well, I'm not going to let that tarnish my stay of Oklahoma City though. There's a lot of beautiful things to see here. My aunt actually lived just south of the city, so I called her and I asked her what to see. She said definitely Bricktown and do the water taxi. Also, this is the home of the Oklahoma City Dodgers baseball team, so if you're into that, you should definitely check out a game. But where I'm at right now, it's a city park just south of the Bricktown district. And there is an amazing installment of oversized bronze statues. In 1889, unassigned land in the Oklahoma Territory opened up, and it caused a frenzy of people coming out wanting to claim their homestead. This artistic depiction of the 1889 land grab consists of 45 bigger-than-life bronze figures and is absolutely impressive. Well, being back in a big city after being in so many small cities for such a long time, it's nice to go out to dinner, and because Bobby Jean is treating, we're going to the top. I want to go over costs. And the only cost I'm actually going to go over is the only one that I think is really relevant for people starting out wanting to live in their RV. And that is the cost of what you would maybe consider rent or your mortgage. You know, as far as food or like health insurance, I mean, that's kind of the same thing. You have a refrigerator and a kitchen, so it's just like having an apartment or house. And then as far as gas goes, it just depends on how far you drive and what vehicle you have, what gas mileage your vehicle gets. So that's totally, you know, individual. But the one thing that I think is important that people may not get a good grasp of unless you've been, you know, traveling around for a couple years, staying in different scenarios and whatnot, then you get a better grasp of things. So I'm going to first lay it out super basic. And know that this is not universal. This is not necessarily going to be your experience. But after 2 years of traveling around, living in campgrounds, living on BLM, living in RV parks, boondocking, not boondocking, all these different things, this is my takeaway and the most basic sense that I can give to you. So there's 3 different ways to break down your monthly cost. And when I say monthly, I'm talking about living in your RV permanently, like as your lifestyle, not as vacation. That's totally separate. I mean, it still can apply, but people don't usually spend a month in their RV on vacation. So when you're full-time living, there's 3 ways to break it down in my mind. There is nightly. There's onesies, twosies, nights here and there. Then there is weekly. And then there is monthly. So if you are going to stay in an RV park monthly, I would suggest budgeting $300 to $600. And again, that's going to depend where you're at. Some places are going to be more and some places are going to be less. But roughly from what I find, those are the fees you're going to find if you can find a place that will let you pay by the month. Now, if you're going to pay by the week, let's say you want to stay a week here, then travel a week there, and then go a week there, usually you can find weekly rates, which if you add up 4 weeks to make a month, that is usually more expensive than a monthly rate. However, with the weekly rate, they give you the 7th day free often, not all parks, you know, not all locations. So if you're going to go weekly, you know, spend 1 or 2 weeks here and then 1 or 2 weeks there, then that's going to roughly cost $600 to $900. And again, it's not universal, just an idea. If you want to budget for this, that might be something to shoot for. And then of course the nightly stays are the more expensive ones, and that is when you should probably expect to spend $900 to $1,200 if you are doing that, you know, as your regular lifestyle every day. So your month might come out to about that. So that means, I think that works out, I just calculated $40. $40 a night I think is $1,200 a month. So that's kind of a high price. You can find parks for $25. Some state parks are $18. So people ask a lot about these clubs like Good Sam Club, Passport America. There's several others. Yes, they're great. However, they are really great for nightly stays. The weekly discounts you often find are going to be more than these clubs, and they won't even give you they won't give you those club discounts if you're staying a week or a month. They're usually only for nightlies. Some of them are 1 night, some of them you have to stay 3 nights, totally dependent on the park. So if you're going to be traveling nightly, and this is where it applies mostly to vacationers, then those clubs come in really handy. In fact, they're even handy if you like to stay more frequently. For example, my goal is 2 to 4 weeks. That's kind of my sweet spot. But then traveling to a destination, sometimes you need to stay 1 or 2 nights, and that's when Passport America often pays itself back in just 1 or 2 one or two parks you stay at. For the monthly plans, know that you probably have to also cover your own electricity. Some parks will charge you, they'll calculate it for you and then charge you extra for the electric bill. And then some parts, if you stay even 2 months, I haven't had it yet happen with 1 month, but if you stay more than a month and you're on a monthly plan, then you have to call the local electric company and set that up. But with the onesies, Tuesdays nights or the weekly nights, it's usually all included. Trash, electric, water, stuff like that. All right, hold your horses. There are ways to do it cheaper. For example, there are state parks. I love state parks. Sometimes you can find city parks, and then there are also county parks. These ones are usually a little cheaper. Often they will not include sewer, and some of them don't include water, and then some of them don't include electric on top of that. So those can be a little more limiting if you're trying to live more or less a regular lifestyle. The great thing about the state parks and the county parks, even city parks, is they're usually in really beautiful locations. However, this often means they're removed from the rest of society, and cell signal can be hard to get. You're probably never going to find Wi-Fi at a park, at a city or state park. And if you use your hotspot, if your cell phone is limited, then your internet is limited as well. And then there are the infamous options of staying in Walmart parking lots, staying in BLM, staying in national forests way off the beaten path. These are free. They don't usually include any amenities. And if you want to go into town, you have to leave your rig in the middle of nowhere or in the Walmart parking lot. The other downside of really roughing it, stealth parking, parking one night in a neighborhood, moving to a different spot in the neighborhood, parking in Walmart, parking in Cracker Barrel, parking in the BLM. The thing about these things is your safety is much more compromised. In Walmart, if you haven't stayed in a Walmart parking lot and you're curious, go to Walmart at night and sit in your car and watch all the other people sitting in their car not knowing what they're doing. There's a lot of fishy business going on in Walmart parking lots. Also, BLM land. Now, let me just say, I am talking full-time living. I'm not talking about vacation. Yay, I've stayed in Walmart parking lots. Definitely convenient when you're trying to get somewhere. And so also about BLM land, if you're curious about that, drive out to some BLM land, in your car or whatever, and look who's out there. See if you want them, if you want them to be your trusted neighbor, because out in BLM land, sometimes you can be way the heck out there. Everything happens in the woods and no one knows. So if you've got a nice rig and you have to go in to the grocery store, drive 40 miles maybe, maybe even 10 miles to get into the grocery store, your rig's going to be out vulnerable to anybody out there that wants to do anything because there's absolutely no one else out there. Now, these are great things for vacations, camping, getting out, seeing the stars, having a couple nights with campfires and stuff. And for me, it's just not a lifestyle, but it is free. And those are things that you have to weigh. Personally, I have had times in my life where I've lived in my car, my very small Saturn. I was working out in the forest. I worked for the Ecological Restoration Institute, and we would go out for 8 days at a time camping and then come back. We'd have 2 weeks off. And I didn't really want to pay for a place to stay, so I lived in my car for a whole summer. And I've had all sorts of cheap living times of my life. At this point, I like being near a grocery store. I like having somewhat sense of security with other people around, particularly vacationing and camping individuals. Those are kind of safer options to be around than what you might find out where you can hide or where you can live for free. So you just have to weigh your options and what you want. I prefer to be in campgrounds. I like campgrounds better than RV parks. Campgrounds are usually farther away from grocery stores and stuff. They're usually prettier, sometimes cheaper, but again, you know, there's no Wi-Fi, and I need Wi-Fi to operate. So I use my hotspot and then rely on good cell phone service. And then as far as length of stays go, my personal preference is 2 to 4 weeks. For me, that is the sweet spot. 3 weeks is really the sweet spot. And I say that because you get plenty of downtime, and when I say downtime, I mean time to work, not where I want to go out and enjoy where I am. So you get time to work, time to relax as well, and then time to go see things at a slower pace instead of today we gotta do this, tomorrow we gotta do this, then we're leaving, you know, because that can be a little stressful. So that's why I like 2 to 4 weeks, and that's also a perfect sweet spot between cost of weekly stays and cost of monthly stays. So kind of keeping that low, but still traveling a little more than just once a month. So keep in mind, I am giving this advice out of a full-time activity of RV living, not just traveling, which is going to be totally different. You're going to be spending more. You don't mind staying at the more expensive parks. And those price ranges that I gave, obviously they're not going to be universal. They probably won't be that forever. And you're going to find much cheaper and much more expensive. So I just hope that you can take that as a base and then build on that for your individual situation, depending on rig, preference, plans, all that sort of stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.